Everybody, and welcome to week 11 of Pinto's preview here on KFGO.com. I'm Daniel Pinto Gunderson, bringing you yet another preview to the NDSU football team's upcoming game. This weekend it's against Illinois State. The Redbirds come in with a record of 5-2 in the conference, 8-2 overall, and if they win this game, they'll at least get a share of the Missouri Valley Football Conference title, and in fact, if all things work out for them, they could get the automatic qualifying bid. Before we go into the points, let's look at last week's game. NDSU winning the Dakota Marker, a 20-17 victory over South Dakota State. They did just enough to beat the Jackrabbits, in fact holding Zach Zenner to under 50 yards rushing. An unbelievable effort by the rushing defense of NDSU. So the Bison again winning the Dakota Marker, winning at least a share of the Missouri Valley Football Conference title, have their sights set on the Redbirds in a big game down in Normal, Illinois this Saturday. First point I want to make is the loss of Levon Perry. Defensive tackle junior Levon Perry ends up hurting his knee in a play against South Dakota State. Now the play in question, I've seen it, I think it's a dirty play by the South Dakota offensive lineman, but be that as it may, how does NDSU recover from this? You already have lost Colton Hegel for the season because of an injury to his knee that happened, freak accident. He tries to make a cut at Colorado State and just collapses. Those things happen in football. Levon Perry, he's the emotional leader for this defensive line. How do you move forward? He's a threat at the interior spot for the defensive line. He stops the run. He's not irreplaceable, but he's pretty close. He started all 39 games of his career, and moving forward, NDSU will need to find someone that they can plug into that spot that'll take over for him talent-wise, and then they need to find someone who's going to be able to take over on that defensive line to be the emotional leader for this team. Second point I'd like to make is what is at stake for NDSU. And again, I've brought the cheat sheet, so I'm going to take a look at this just so I don't miss anything as far as what is at stake for NDSU in this game against the Redbirds. First thing is the outright title of the Missouri Valley Football Conference, and with that, the automatic qualifier. Those two things combined probably give NDSU a bye. Even if they lose this game, I think they're going to get a bye regardless in that first week of the playoffs. But going 10-1 and winning the Missouri Valley gives you home field advantage throughout the playoffs. No questions asked, especially with NDSU having the #1 ranking in all the polls, including the GPI. So NDSU will need to win this game just to make sure and solidify that spot. Now, let's venture into, say, point 2A and talk about who could slide into NDSU's spot if they lose. Now, I went through the top 6 teams because I figured the top 6 teams probably have the best chance of taking over for that spot. You start at number 6. Georgia Southern is on the road this week against the University of Georgia. It's probably going to be a loss. I don't see Georgia Southern coming out and beating the Bulldogs, a top 5 team in the FBS. The number 5 team in the nation is Eastern Washington. Now, Eastern Washington has done a really good job this season. I believe they're 8-2 on the year. They're on the road against Portland State. Not going to lose that game. I'm going to go out and say that. I think they win that game and keep moving forward towards the playoffs. The interesting thing about them is the fact that they're the only team so far this year to beat the number 2 Montana State Bobcats. Montana State is on the road this week, taking on their rival Montana. Throughout the records, Montana's going to give a good effort in this game, regardless of what the season has shown for them, including a loss to UND up in Grand Forks. The Grizzlies are going to come out, they're going to put up a good fight. I can't call that game either way because it's a rivalry game and you really don't care about records. Montana State should win that game, but they could lose. It's an either way kind of toss-up, if you will. Number 4 is Old Dominion. Now, Old Dominion is on the road against James Madison. Out of the CAA, they win that game and say, you know, Montana State loses, and then the number 3 Sam Houston State, who's on the road against Texas A&M, I think they do lose. Old Dominion could slide into that 2 spot and get that number 2 seed, home field advantage for them throughout the playoffs. So a lot of things are up for grabs here this weekend in FCS football. Third and final point I'd like to make is how important is the bye week, really? Illinois State, they're coming off a bye week. They got 2 weeks to prepare for NDSU. NDSU, meanwhile, they had to prepare for South Dakota State last week. Big victory for them, but now it's a quick turnaround and you have to prepare for Illinois State in what ends up being the biggest game of the year for both teams. Now, head coach Craig Bull is 8-1 coming off of bye weeks, while head coach Brock Spack of Illinois State is 1-1. The Missouri Valley Conference this year overall as a conference is 3-3. There are 4 teams this week that will be coming off bye weeks, Illinois State included in that number. So really, it's a tough call. I think it is important. I think Illinois State now having that extra week to prepare and get healthy, two very important things coming into a physical game, they're going to have the advantage in that regard. Fresh legs, it's a long season. You couldn't ask for your bye week to come at a better time. So, if I'm Illinois State, I'm smiling about this and thinking, good, I get an opportunity to take on NDSU with a fresh and healthy roster. And finally, my prediction. I've been awful all season long. Now, I've compiled an 8-2 record based mainly off the fact that NDSU keeps winning. I picked them to lose to Colorado State. They won that game. I picked them to beat Indiana State. They lost that game. So I haven't done really all that bad, but when it comes to picking scores, I've been awful. So this week, it's going to be a tough call. But when I looked at this schedule at the beginning of the season back in August, I said Illinois State would win this game, and it would be NDSU's only conference loss. I still think that. Now, obviously, it'd be NDSU's second conference loss, but I still believe that the Illinois State Redbirds are going to make a statement win in this game. I think they come out. It's going to be a tough, tough game. Both these defenses are outstanding. I think Illinois State wins by virtue that they have a better quarterback. Frankly, in my opinion, Brock Jensen is not as good as Matt Brown, and it would be tough to find somebody else out there who would disagree with me. So I think that Matt Brown is going to do a better job of hanging onto the ball. I don't think he's going to turn it over. I think Illinois State's going to have a good mixture of pass and run. I think they come out with a 17-13 victory and a share of the Missouri Valley Football Conference title. For Pinto's Previews and KFGO.com, I'm Daniel Gunderson.